Hey guys, welcome to another video. Imagine, for a moment, that you are asleep in your own bed in the 21st century, safe, clean, comfortable, and surrounded by the conveniences of electricity, running water, central heating, and the familiar glow of a mobile phone screen. Then, without warning, you awaken to the groaning of wooden carts on muddy cobbled streets, the stench of smoke, manure, and sweat pressing into your nostrils like a physical weight. Your eyes open not to a white ceiling, but to the low, timbered rafters of a Tudor house, a crooked structure built of wattle and daub, its plaster walls cracked, and its thatched roof sagging with damp. You stumble to your feet, confused, and it takes you several moments to realize when you are. 16th century England, the age of Henry Roman VIII and Elizabeth I, the heart of what history will call the Tudor dynasty. And already, within your first few minutes, you realize that you would not last a single day here. The first thing to strike you is the smell. In modern life, you are used to deodorants, showers, sewage systems, trash collection. Tudor Britain has none of this. The air itself is heavy with a mixture of wood smoke from thousands of fireplaces, the sharp ammonia reek of chamber pots emptied directly into the street, the sour tang of unwashed bodies, the wet, dog stench of sheep and pigs herded through market squares, and the ever-present rot of fish, meat, and vegetables that have spoiled in the open air. The streets are little more than uneven mud, filled trenches where refuse and animal dung are thrown without thought. People track filth into their homes on leather shoes. Rats scurry everywhere, their sharp eyes glinting from beneath piles of hay or discarded cabbage leaves. Within just a few hours, the fine fabrics you are wearing from your own century would be stained, stinking, and crawling with fleas. Already your stomach clenches, not just from the smell, but from the awareness that here disease is not an invisible concept fought by doctors in sterile hospitals. Here it is a daily companion, a shadow waiting behind every doorway. You clutch your stomach and think perhaps you could find food, something to distract you, but quickly realize that even this most basic act is fraught with danger. In Tudor Britain, bread is hard, coarse, often adulterated with chalk or sawdust to stretch the flour. The wealthy might eat fine white loaves, but you are no nobleman here. You are a stranger, an outsider, and in the markets you see thick black rye bread that could rot your teeth and twist your gut. Meat hangs on hooks in the open air, buzzing with flies. Fish, hauled miles inland without ice, lies limp and sour, its eyes clouded over. Fresh fruit is rare. Vegetables are cheap, but often boiled into oblivion. If you are thirsty, water is out of the question. Every stream and well is polluted with human waste. Ale, weak and cloudy, is the safest thing to drink, and even that could carry disease. Milk curdles quickly without refrigeration. Within a day, if not within hours, your stomach would revolt. Modern bodies are not trained to endure the bacteria, the parasites, the foulness of Tudor food and drink. One sip, one careless bite, and you would be fevered, vomiting, praying for medicine that does not exist. Yet hunger is only part of the misery. Hygiene in Tudor England is a brutal joke compared to your modern standards. Bathing is rare. The wealthy might soak in a wooden tub once or twice a year, using scented herbs to cover the smell, but the poor go months without immersing themselves in water. Clothes are not washed so much as beaten or brushed. Lice crawl in hair and clothing, fleas bite ankles until the skin is raw, teeth rot early, gums swell, breath stinks of decay. You, used to toothpaste, showers, shampoo, would find your own body revolting after only a short time. And as you scratch at your arms and swat at invisible bugs, you realize there is no escape. No soap, no disinfectant, no clean towel. Just filth, day after day, until you either grow numb to it or die from it. But it is not just the physical discomfort that would crush you, it is the fear. Tudor society is built on a knife edge of suspicion and punishment. Step out of line, say the wrong word, or offend the wrong person, and the consequences are brutal. Public executions are not rare spectacles, but regular entertainments. You could be hanged for theft, burned for heresy, or drawn and quartered for treason. In town squares, severed heads rot on spikes, a grim warning to all. Stocks and pillories hold men and women by the neck and wrists, their faces smeared with filth as crowds jeer and pelt them with rotten fruit. Whippings draw blood in the streets. Children watch without flinching, for this is the world they know. And you, used to laws, rights, and a sense of justice, would feel your heart pound every time you opened your mouth, every time you looked someone in the eye, terrified that some innocent remark could be twisted into crime. Religion weaves itself into this atmosphere of fear like a chain around your throat. In Tudor Britain, the Reformation has split the country down the middle. One monarch demands Catholic loyalty, the next enforces Protestant obedience. Neighbors spy on neighbors, whispering about who attends Mass and who refuses. Priests hide in priest holes, hunted like animals. Women accused of witchcraft are dragged to trial, their fingernails ripped out, their bodies pressed with heavy stones until they confess. Imagine stumbling into a church service, not knowing the proper prayers, not kneeling at the right time. You could be branded a heretic. Imagine being asked your thoughts on the king's new marriage or the queen's legitimacy, and answering wrongly. You could be sentenced to the axe. Every word, every gesture is a gamble with your life. And still, there is more to endure. The medical world of Tudor England is a horror show of superstition and ignorance. Physicians bleed patients to balance the humors, leeches suck at wounds, and infected sores are smeared with honey or dung as cures. Surgery is done without anesthesia, without sterilization, with rusty knives that slice through flesh while the patient screams and thrashes. A simple cut on your finger, untreated, could swell with infection and kill you within days. A cough could be the plague. A toothache could spread through the jaw into the blood, ending in fever and death. Mothers die in childbirth at staggering rates. Infants perish before their first birthdays. You, with your modern reliance on antibiotics, painkillers, vaccines, would find yourself helpless in a land where illness is not a temporary setback, but a constant sentence hanging overhead. And then, of course, there is the social world, which would break your spirit as swiftly as disease breaks your body. If you are a man, your worth is judged by land, trade, or your loyalty to powerful patrons. Without connections, you are nobody, vulnerable to exploitation. If you are a woman, your life is dictated by men, father, husband, lord. Marriages are arranged, childbirth expected, obedience demanded. Step outside these boundaries, and you are labeled sinful, dangerous, perhaps even a witch. Love is rarely romantic. It is a transaction. Friendship is a shield against loneliness, but cannot protect you from the hierarchy that keeps nobles in silk and peasants in rags. You, with your modern notions of freedom, choice, and equality, would feel caged, suffocated, screaming inside a body that is no longer allowed to decide for itself. And if, somehow, you survive the food, the filth, the fear, the disease, and the oppression, you must face the daily grind of work. The poor labor from dawn to dusk, bent over fields, carrying water, scraping at soil with primitive tools. Apprentices toil in smoky workshops, inhaling dust and fumes. Servants scrub, cook, fetch, and bow, their lives consumed by the needs of their masters. Even the wealthy, who dine in great halls and wear velvet trimmed with fur, are not safe. They may fall victim to court intrigue, betrayal, poisoning, or the wrath of a monarch who changes favorites with the wind. Every day is a test of endurance, and even the strong collapse under its weight. So when you ask yourself whether you could last a day in Tudor Britain, the answer is painfully clear. Your modern body, mind, and spirit, softened by centuries of progress, would falter within hours. The hunger, the filth, the fear, the disease, the injustice, all would crash upon you like waves until you could no longer stand. And yet, the people of that age endured, lived, loved, created, fought, and built the world that would one day give birth to yours. They were hardened by necessity, shaped by struggle, and bound by a faith that survival itself was victory. But you would not last a day. The morning bells ring across the town, iron clanging against iron, summoning men, women, and children to the rhythm of Tudor life. You are still shivering in your rough bed of straw, your body sore from the unfamiliar hardness, your ears aching from the endless noises of a world without insulation or quiet. Outside, the town wakes in a chaos of voices, hooves, chickens, barking dogs, and street hawkers shouting their wares. You drag yourself to the door and step into the narrow lane, only to realize that the entire ground is a carpet of mud, animal waste, and refuse, churned into a slippery paste by cart wheels. The hem of your clothing soaks in filth within seconds. Already you are hungry, thirsty, and dirty, yet the day has barely begun. For the Tudors, this is normal. For you, it is a nightmare that grows darker with every passing hour. You wander, dazed, trying to understand this alien world, but soon the eyes of the townsfolk begin to rest on you. Their stares are sharp, suspicious. In Tudor Britain, communities are tight-knit. Everyone knows each other's family, trade, and reputation. A stranger, dressed oddly, speaking with a strange accent, immediately draws attention. People pause in their errands to whisper, and you realize with a prickling dread that outsiders are often seen as dangerous, spies, thieves, or worse. A baker's boy mutters something about witchcraft, and a woman spits on the ground as you pass. You hurry away, realizing that fitting in here is not merely difficult, but potentially deadly. One wrong rumor could end with you in chains, dragged before a magistrate who sees guilt in every shadow. Seeking escape, you find yourself drawn toward the marketplace, the throbbing heart of every Tudor town. Here, the noise is deafening, the smells overpowering. Traders bellow the prices of their wares, coins jingle, hammers strike iron, animals scream as they are slaughtered, children cry, dogs fight over scraps. You push through the crowd, staring at tables piled with coarse bread, salted fish, greasy pies, wilted vegetables, barrels of ale. Your stomach growls, but you have no coin, no way of paying, and even if you did, you know that the food is unsafe. A meat pie might contain rancid fat, rats, or even scraps of spoiled organs disguised under spices. A cup of ale, brewed by a careless hand, might give you cramps that last for days. You back away, your hunger gnawing at you like an enemy you cannot fight. The cries of the marketplace shift, however, as a new sound rises above the rest, the tolling of another bell, deeper, slower, more ominous. The crowd begins to surge toward the square, and you, caught in their tide, stumble along until you stand before a wooden scaffold. Your breath catches as you see the spectacle, a man bound, his shirt torn, his chest streaked with blood from lashes already given. The sheriff reads charges, his voice booming, theft, treason, heresy, it hardly matters. The crowd cheers, jeers, hurls curses. The condemned man shakes, his face pale, yet his eyes burn with defiance. And then the punishment begins. A whip slices his back, leaving red ribbons across flesh. When he faints, he is revived with a bucket of water only to suffer again. Children watch wide-eyed, women gossip, men laugh. For them, this is entertainment, a living lesson in obedience. For you, it is horror incarnate. You turn away, stomach twisting, bile rising, heart pounding with the realization that in this world, Justice is not about truth but about power, and the spectacle of cruelty is as common as a feast. Shaken, you stumble into an alley, gasping for air, your ears still echoing with the cries of the punished. You lean against a wall, but even here there is no peace. A woman sits on the ground, her baby wailing weakly in her arms, its skin yellowed with sickness. She rocks it, humming through cracked lips, while a neighbor mutters that the child must be bewitched. Across from her, a man with missing teeth hacks into a fit of coughing, blood speckling the ground. The sight freezes your veins. Tuberculosis, plague, pneumonia. You have no way of knowing, but you do know that disease is everywhere. One cough, one touch could be your end. You cover your mouth instinctively, but here no one does. Disease is simply life. By midday, the sun is high, though it offers little warmth against the biting wind. You wander past half-timbered houses with their jutting upper floors, shadows stretching across the filthy street. From open windows drift the sounds of pots clanging, babies crying, women scolding, men shouting. From another, you catch the faint strains of a lute, delicate notes rising like a ghost above the noise. For a brief moment, you feel wonder, art, beauty even here, but the music fades quickly beneath the reality of daily grind. You see a servant hauling water from a well, her shoulders bent under the weight. A butcher hacks through bones, his apron stained deep red. Children chase a pig, laughing, until it slips in the muck and squeals in terror. Every detail around you is a reminder. This world is unforgiving, relentless, built upon sweat, blood, and survival. And then comes the church bell, calling all to prayer. The crowd flows toward the stone church, its spire rising above the town like a warning finger. You hesitate, unsure whether to follow, but hesitation itself is dangerous. To ignore the summons is to invite suspicion. You step inside the cold stone building, where candlelight flickers against painted walls. The air smells of wax, incense, and damp stone. Parishioners kneel, bow, cross themselves, mouths moving in practiced unison. You mimic them clumsily, your heart hammering, terrified that your ignorance will betray you. The priest's voice rises, chanting in Latin. Or is it English? In this era of shifting faith, you cannot tell which side this town belongs to. If you stand at the wrong moment, fail to kneel at the right one, you could be branded heretic. Your palms sweat, your throat tightens, but somehow you stumble through without notice. Still, the fear lingers here. Religion is not private but political, and to believe wrongly is to risk the pyre. When you emerge, the sky is dimming, clouds rolling in, the air damp with the threat of rain. You think perhaps the day is nearly over, but in Tudor life, the night is worse than the day. The streets darken quickly, lit only by torches sputtering weakly in the wind. Shadows grow long, and with them comes danger. Thieves lurk in alleys, ready to slit purses or throats. Drunken men stagger from taverns, fists flying in sudden brawls. Women hurry home, skirts gathered, eyes down, fearful of what lurks in the dark. The town feels smaller, tighter, more suffocating as the light fades. You hurry too, though you have no home here, no safe bed, no locked door. And then, as you wander lost, you stumble into a different kind of crowd, louder, rowdier, gathered before a wooden stage. A troupe of players performs by torchlight, their voices carrying in exaggerated tones, their costumes bright despite the soot and grime. For a moment, you are captivated. The play is bawdy, full of jokes and gestures that make the crowd roar with laughter. You realize with a jolt that this is the seed of a world that will one day give you Shakespeare, theater, art that echoes through centuries. For the Tudors, it is escape, a chance to laugh at life's miseries, to forget hunger, fear, and toil. And for you, it is a glimpse of the humanity that still survives here, even in the filth. You smile despite yourself, though the feeling fades quickly when a drunken hand claps your shoulder too hard, and you are shoved into the crowd, nearly falling. You push your way free, heart racing, realizing that joy here is as dangerous as despair, and every gathering could turn violent without warning. By the time you find shelter in a shadowed doorway, exhaustion weighs on you like chains. Your body aches from walking, your stomach twists with hunger, your throat is parched, your mind is frayed from fear, and yet you realize with dawning horror that this has been only one day or less. The Tudors live this way every day, every month, every year. For them, this is not unbearable. It is life. For you, it is a test you are failing by the hour. The question is not whether you would last a day, but whether you would last until dawn. The night air is colder than you expected, a damp chill that seeps into your bones and makes every joint ache. You curl into yourself in the shadow of a tavern, shivering, but even as you try to sleep, the noises never stop. Drunken men roar songs out of tune, smashing mugs against tables, while prostitutes bargain in hoarse whispers on the street. Somewhere, a child cries endlessly, ignored by a mother too tired or too sick to comfort it. Horses clatter past, their hooves striking sparks on the cobbles, and the smell of urine drifts from the corner where a man relieves himself without shame. You cover your ears, but it is no use. This world is never silent. At last, exhaustion drags you into a restless doze, though rats scurrying near, jolt you awake more than once. In that half-dreaming state, you remember the warmth of your modern bed, the hum of electricity, the security of locked doors, and your chest tightens with a desperate longing. Yet here you are, trapped in a century where comfort is a word without meaning. When dawn comes, it is not with peace, but with smoke. Fires are stoked in every hearth, and the town becomes a choking haze of gray. Your throat burns as you stumble into the street, coughing, your eyes watering. The people around you are already at work, for Tudor life allows no laziness. Women haul water, men carry wood, apprentices hammer, children run errands. You try to blend in, but you feel clumsy, conspicuous, like a painted figure among real ones. Hunger gnaws at you with sharp teeth, and you know you must find food soon or collapse. You approach a stall where a woman sells pottage, a thick stew of barley, peas, and scraps of vegetable. The smell makes your mouth water despite the layer of scum floating on the surface. But when you reach for a bowl, she narrows her eyes and demands coin. You have none. When you stammer, she spits and shoves you back, shouting that beggars should crawl elsewhere. The crowd stares, and once again you feel the prickling of suspicion. In this world, poverty is not pitied but despised, for it reminds everyone of how close they themselves live to starvation. You stagger away, dizzy with hunger, but as you round a corner, you are confronted with something far worse. A cart rattles past, its wheels caked with mud, its bed carrying not goods but bodies, limp, pale, covered with rough cloth. The smell hits you before the sight fully registers, the stench of death, heavy and foul. A bell rings, slow and mournful, and a voice calls, "Bring out your dead." The plague has come, or perhaps never left, for in Tudor Britain disease is an endless visitor. You recoil, horrified, but the people around you show little fear. They cross themselves, mutter prayers, and carry on. Death is so common here it is almost a neighbor. You, however, are not accustomed. Your stomach twists, your knees weaken, and you nearly collapse as you realize how helpless you are against the invisible enemy that rules this land. The plague is only the most famous of their killers. There are countless others, sweating sickness, striking without warning and killing within hours. Smallpox, leaving faces pitted and scarred. Typhus, cholera, dysentery, carried by the very water you dared not drink. A fever could end you in days. A simple cut could fester into gangrene, and what of the treatments? Here, medicine is a carnival of superstition. You seek shelter in a small physician's shop, drawn by curiosity and desperation, only to find shelves lined with jars of leeches, bundles of dried herbs, powders of ground bone and horn. The physician himself, dressed in black with a stiff ruff, peers at you with suspicion, then offers a diagnosis without even touching you. Your pale face means your black bile is unbalanced. You must be bled. He produces a knife and basin, ready to drain you of the very life, blood you cling to. You back away, horrified, muttering excuses until you escape into the street again. Your heart races with the knowledge that here, the cure is often worse than the disease. As the day stretches on, you are drawn unwillingly toward the castle that looms over the town, its stone towers stark against the sky. Perhaps, you think, among nobles there is safety, comfort, a life closer to what you know. But as you approach, the grandeur is more intimidating than inviting. Guards in steel helmets watch with sharp eyes, hands on sword hilts. You slip through the gates among a group of peasants delivering goods, and for a moment you marvel at the sight within. Tapestries hang on walls, candles flicker in iron chandeliers, and servants scurry in fine livery. The air smells of roasted meat and spiced wine, but even here, danger hums like a taut string. The nobles who stride through the hall wear silks and velvets, but their eyes glitter with calculation. Every smile hides suspicion, every bow masks ambition. You overhear whispers of the king's mood, of the queen's enemies, of a courtier fallen from favor and sent to the tower. You realize with a chill that power here is as deadly as poverty outside. One misplaced word, one unlucky glance, could brand you a traitor. You imagine yourself dragged before the king, your fate sealed by his whim, and you shudder. Better the filth of the street than the poison of the court. Yet you cannot escape the pull of fascination. In the great hall, a feast is prepared. You watch as roasted boar, peacocks with gilded feathers, and pies stuffed with venison are laid before the lords and ladies. Minstrels play, jugglers toss knives, and laughter fills the chamber. For a moment, you think perhaps life here is not so unbearable. But then you notice the servants at the edge of the hall, their faces hollow, their hands trembling from exhaustion. You see a nobleman's eyes linger on a serving girl with the hunger of a predator, knowing she has no power to resist him. You see the forced smiles of women married off for alliances, their worth measured in dowries, not in hearts. Even here, where the candles shine and the music plays, life is a prison gilded with gold. When you finally flee the castle and return to the town, the sun is sinking once more, and with it comes the threat of violence. Not the drunken brawls of taverns this time, but organized bloodshed. For the Tudors live in an age of rebellion, war, and endless suspicion. Soldiers march through the streets, their armor clanking, their faces set. They drag with them men accused of plotting against the crown. The crowd gathers, eager to see traitors punished. You push closer, curiosity battling fear, and what you see etches itself into your memory. One man is tied to a wooden frame, his shirt ripped open. The executioner sharpens his axe slowly, deliberately, while the priest mutters prayers into the condemned man's ear. The crowd jeers, calling for blood. And then, with one brutal stroke, the axe falls. The head tumbles, the body crumples, and a roar goes up from the people. The executioner holds the severed head aloft, its eyes still wide, its mouth frozen in a silent cry. Your stomach heaves, your vision blurs, and you stagger away, retching in the gutter. You cannot comprehend how these people watch without horror, even with joy, but then you realize they watch because it is not them. Today they are safe, tomorrow they may not be. This is how they live, with death as entertainment, cruelty as spectacle, survival as the only prize. You stumble away, dazed, only to be caught by a group of boys mocking your weakness. They laugh, calling you soft, cowardly, unmanly. In this world, strength is not measured by compassion or intelligence, but by endurance. To be weak is to invite scorn. To be vulnerable is to invite attack. You feel the weight of their eyes and realize with crushing certainty that you are out of place here, a fragile creature in a land of iron. You cannot blend in, cannot adapt, cannot endure as they do. You are prey among predators, a lamb among wolves, and still, as the night closes in again, you see glimpses of the humanity that survives even in this brutal age. A mother sings softly to her child by the fire, her voice a lullaby against hunger. A group of friends share a jug of ale, laughing until tears run down their cheeks. Lovers clasp hands in a darkened doorway, stealing a moment of warmth in a world of cold. A priest offers bread to a beggar, his eyes kind despite the weight of fear. These sparks of light pierce the darkness, reminding you that even here, life is not only misery. Yet you know they are sparks only, fragile and fleeting, for the darkness always returns, stronger than before. As you lay your head once more on the hard ground, shivering beneath the weight of the night, you realize the truth. You would not last a day in Tudor Britain. You have already survived more than you thought possible, but every hour has cost you strength, sanity, and spirit. The food poisons, the filth suffocates, the disease stalks, the justice terrifies, the power corrupts, the fear crushes. And though the people of this world endure, hardened by necessity, you are not of them. You are a creature of another age, softer, freer, unprepared. To you this is hell, to them it is home, and that is why you would not last. Not a day, not even an hour longer. The dawn rises yet again, though the word dawn feels misplaced in a world where the sky is more often gray than golden, heavy with smoke and fog. You stagger through the narrow lanes, your body stiff, your belly hollow, your spirit bruised, and you cannot help but wonder how the people of Tudor Britain endure this endless grind. And then you see it, the fear beneath the surface, the terror that is not always about hunger or cold, but about something far more insidious, superstition. The Tudor mind lives in a universe thick with omens, curses, witches, and divine punishment. Every shadow hides a demon, every misfortune is proof of sin. A child dies in the night, and whispers rise that the mother angered God. A cow sickens, and the old woman who lives alone on the edge of town is blamed for witchcraft. You pause at the sight of one such scene. A crowd gathered around a hunched, gray-haired woman, her eyes wide with terror, her hands clawing at the air as neighbors shout accusations. She made the butter curdle. She cursed a baby with her glance. She flew in the night with the devil. The woman sobs, swears her innocence, but her cries are drowned by jeers. Already men are dragging her toward the magistrate, where the tests will begin. If she floats in water, she is guilty. If she sinks and drowns, she is innocent. Too late to matter. You watch in sick horror, realizing that truth has no place here. Fear rules, and fear demands blood. You turn away, heart pounding, and almost collide with a procession on the road. Priests carrying relics, chanting prayers, holding aloft a splinter of wood they claim is from the true cross. The townsfolk kneel as the relic passes, murmuring prayers for protection from plague, famine, war. You hesitate, unsure whether to kneel, and once again you feel eyes on you, suspicious, accusing. You sink to your knees, your lips moving in imitation of prayers you do not know. Religion here is not a matter of private belief, but of survival. To doubt openly is to die. To practice the wrong aversion is treason. And because monarchs change and with them the favored faith, loyalty today may be heresy tomorrow. You realize that to live here is to live in constant fear not only of kings and lords but of God himself, or at least of the men who claim to speak for him. As you continue your aimless wandering, you encounter a wedding procession. Bright ribbons stream from poles, music clatters from fiddles and drums, and villagers dance in the muddy lane. At first it seems joyful, a rare moment of cheer, but as you watch more closely, you see the undercurrent of duty and burden. The bride is a girl of perhaps 15, her eyes downcast, her lips pressed tight. The groom, a man twice her age, beams with drunken pride. This is not a marriage of love but of land, dowry, and alliance. Her consent is irrelevant. Her role is to bear children, preferably sons, and to obey. You feel a pang of anger, of sorrow, but here no one questions such things. This is life. A woman's body is not her own, her future not hers to shape. And should she resist, she may be beaten, cast out, or accused of wickedness. You realize with a sinking heart that in this world, half the population lives in chains invisible yet unbreakable, and those chains would choke you too if you remain. Later, as you pass a tavern, you glimpse another side of Tudor love. A young serving girl laughs in the corner with a boy her age, their hands brushing shyly beneath the table. Their smiles are pure, fleeting, stolen from a harsh world. But even here, danger lurks. If their dalliance is discovered, the girl risks disgrace, dismissal, perhaps even punishment. If she falls pregnant, her life could collapse into poverty and shame. Love here is not the freedom you know, but a gamble, played in shadows, with consequences that can ruin lives. Marriage is duty, passion is danger, and affection is often drowned by necessity. You feel again how suffocating this world is, how narrow its choices, how sharp its punishments. As the days blur, you see more of Tudor entertainments, the ways people carve joy out of misery. At the fair, jugglers toss knives, acrobats tumble and bear. Baiting pits fill with roars as chained animals are tormented for the crowd's delight. Men gamble on dice, women gossip over ale, children chase each other through mud. On feast days, whole towns turn out for dancing, music, and feasting, the brief relief of celebration before the grind begins again. You are struck by how easily they laugh, how fiercely they cling to moments of cheer. Perhaps it is because life is so hard that they seize joy so hungrily, for tomorrow may bring famine, plague, or the gallows. And yet, as you watch a bear torn apart by dogs while men cheer and wager, your stomach turns. Their laughter rings hollow in your ears, their joy smeared with blood. You wonder if, even in happiness, you would ever belong here. One evening, you find yourself at a playhouse, a crude stage set in a courtyard. Actors stride across planks, declaiming lines of kings and queens, fools and lovers. The audience roars with laughter, gasps with shock, hurls apples when displeased. For a moment, you are swept up, recognizing the seeds of a culture that will one day produce Shakespeare, Marlowe, and Johnson. The words crackle with wit, the stories shimmer with passion. But then a brawl breaks out, tankards fly, fists swing, and the play collapses into chaos. Entertainment, like everything else here, teeters on the edge of violence. You back away, heart pounding, realizing again that even joy here is laced with danger. At night, when you collapse in your corner, you think of war. For even if you survived the filth, the hunger, the superstition, the fear, you would not escape the endless shadow of conflict. Tudor England is a land of shifting alliances, of wars with France and Scotland, of rebellions and uprisings. Soldiers are recruited from villages like this one, pressed into service whether they wish it or not. They march with pikes and muskets, clad in little more than leather, to face cannon and steel. Many die not by blade, but by disease in filthy camps. Those who return bring scars, hunger, and bitterness. You imagine yourself among them, forced to march, to fight, to kill with no training, no will. You know you would not survive a battlefield where musket balls tear through flesh, where cannons scatter men like straw, where screams of agony fill the air. Modern war is distant, fought by machines, but here it is intimate, bloody, inescapable. Another reason, another certainty. You would not last, and still, Beneath all this suffering, the Tudors endure. They rise each day, they work, they pray, they love, they fight, they die, and still the world turns. They carve meaning from misery, faith from fear, joy from blood. You marvel at their strength even as you admit your weakness. You see that they are not less human for their suffering, but more. They are the raw edge of humanity, stripped of comfort, clothed only in endurance. And you, dragged into their world, cannot match them. You are too soft, too sheltered, too bound to the luxuries of your time. You are a child here, fragile and unfit. And so you know, with a certainty as heavy as stone, that you would not last a day in Tudor Britain, and even if you did, you would not wish to.